Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are group first. So today we will be presenting about national education philosophy and also philosophy of Islamic education, focusing on an analysis of advantages, shortcomings and also solution to the issues. So let's go. Here are the table of contents, which is the first content is national education philosophy. Next content is philosophy of Islamic education, and next is advantages of national education philosophy. Next is advantages of philosophy of Islamic education, then shortcomings of philosophy, and lastly is solution to overcome shortcomings for both philosophies. So let's go to the first part, which is introduction of national education philosophies and also philosophies of Islamic education. The national education philosophy, or we call it as NEP, is the foundation of Malaysia's education system. It defines education as an ongoing effort to develop the potential of individuals in a holistic and integrated manner, which is encompassing intellectual, spiritual, emotional and also physical aspects. The goal is to produce balance and harmonious individuals who are knowledgeable, ethical, responsible and also able to contribute to family, society and the nation. So let's go to the next part, which is how the process of forming the national education philosophy. Before Malaysia's independence in 1957, our education system was divided by race and language. There were Chinese, Malay, Tamil and English schools, and the separation caused a lack of unity among citizens. After independence, the government realized that education must become a tool to unite the nation and produce balance. This is the first process how national education philosophy was formed, which is Razak Report in 1956. The process began with the Razak Report in 1956. It aimed to unify the education system by introducing a national curriculum and using Malay as the national language of instruction. The main purpose was to promote national unity through education. The next process, which is Rahman Talib in 1960. The Rahman Talib in 1960 strengthened these ideas, which is emphasize discipline, moral and intellectual development, showing that education should not focus only knowledge but also on character building. And the third process, which is Cabinet Committee Report, which is in 1979. The Cabinet Committee Report highlighted the need for a holistic education involving not just academics but also spiritual, emotional and physically growth. This was a major step toward forming a more balanced philosophy. Last but not least is official formation in 1988, which is all these ideas was combined in the national education philosophy was officially declared by the Minister of Education. It became the foundation of Malaysia's education policy. And next, we go to the background and historical context of national education philosophy. The national education philosophy was formulated in 1988 and later revised in 1996 to align with Vision 2020, which focused on national unity and human capital development. This philosophy is deeply rooted in Malaysia's Rukun Negara, which emphasizes faith, loyalty, good behavior and morality. It serves as a philosophical foundation for education policies, curriculum design and teacher training in Malaysia. Next, here are the core elements and aims for national education philosophy. The national education philosophy promotes holistic human development, balancing intellectual, emotional, spiritual and physical aspects. It stresses integration of knowledge, skills and value in ensuring that education doesn't only produce smart students but also moral and responsible citizens. Ultimately, it supports nation building through education that nurtures unity and harmony among Malaysia's diverse society. So let's moving to the next philosophy, which is the definition of philosophy of Islamic education is based on the Quran and Sunnah, and it aims to shape individuals as servant of Allah and Khalifa on earth. Islamic education is seen as lifelong process, nurturing every aspect of a person, spiritual, moral, intellectual, and physical. The ultimate goal is to achieve success in this world and the hereafter. So the first process is awareness in the 1970s and until 1980s, which is in the 1970s and 1980s, Muslim scholars and educators began to realize the need to integrate Islamic values into the national education system. They wanted students to not only gain knowledge but also develop spiritual. The process is formation of Islamic Education Division. The Ministry of Education created the Islamic Education Division, which was responsible for designing Islamic education curriculum and policy. The process is research and drafting. Scholars, educators and policy experts, together with Jakim, conducted research and draft the philosophy, ensuring it was based on the Quran and Sunnah. Next, and the last process is official formation in 1988. Finally, in 1988, the philosophy of Islamic education, or PI, was officially introduced in the same year as the National Education Philosophy. It focuses on developing faith, knowledge, and also good character according to Islam. Let's go to the next part, which is historical background of philosophy Islamic education. Islamic education in Malaysia has a long history dating back to the Malacca Sultanate era. It began in most surau and pondok institution where scholars taught Quran, fiqh and Arabic. Later, during British colonization and after independence, Islamic education was formally integrated into the national education system through the policies such as the Education Act at 1996. Today, philosophy of Islamic education complements the national education philosophy by emphasizing spiritual and moral values alongside academic. And last but not least, here are the core elements and aims for philosophy of Islamic education. The core principles of philosophy of Islamic education are based on the concept of Tawheed, which means recognizing Allah as the ultimate source of knowledge. Its main objective is to produce insan kamil, or a complete person, one who is intellectually capable, spiritually strong, and morally upright. In Islamic education, knowledge and good conduct cannot be separated. It promotes a balance between worldly knowledge and religious faith, preparing students for both this life and hereafter. So that's all for me. I'll pass for the next presenter. Thank you.
So, Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. So, today I'm going to talk about something really important, which is the National Education Philosophy, or we usually call it as the NEP. So, basically, this philosophy is the heart of our education system here in Malaysia. So, it's like the guides that shapes who are we as students, teachers, and even as citizens. Okay, so before I explain each point in details, let me first share the 6 main advantages of the national education philosophy. The first one is develop a balanced and harmonious individual. The second one is provides a clear directions for the education system. The third one is produce knowledgeable, ethical, and responsibility. And the number four is promotes national unities and integrations. And then it enhances the quality of human capital. And finally, it ensures personal and society of well-being. Okay, first of all, the NEP focus on developing a balanced and harmonious individual, which is it's not just about being smart in exam, it's about balance in every aspect, which is mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. So, for example, Students who study hard but also had a good manners, confidence, and empathy. So that's exactly what the NEP wants to achieve. So according to Ministry of Education Malaysia, these kinds of balance help to produce citizens who are not only intelligent but also kind-hearted and responsible. So secondly, the NEP gives a clear directions for our world's education systems. Everything from the school curriculum, teacher trainings, and even learning outcomes. So it's guided by this philosophy. That means all schools in Malaysia are working toward the same goal to build students who are knowledgeable and ethical based on our national values. So in short, the NEP keeps our education systems on the right tracks no matter where you study. And then the third advantage is that it helps produce knowledgeable, ethical, and responsibility citizens. So this philosophy teaches us that being educated is just not about scoring A's, but it's also about having strong moral value, things like honesty, disciplines, respect, and social responsibility. So when students grow up, they are not just successful people, but also individuals who cares about their community and their country. So that's the kinds of citizens Malaysians need. So next, the fourth one, the NEP promotes national unity and integration. So Malaysia is a very diverse country. We have a different races, religions, and cultures. So education plays a big role in bringing everyone together. So through schools activity and shared learning, students learn how to appreciate differences and respect one another. So this builds understandings and strengthens unity among nations, so which is really important for a peaceful nation. So moving on to number five, which is the NEP helps improve the quality of human capital. So in today's competitive world, we need people who are not only skilled and creative, but also ethical. So through education, the NEP prepares students to face global challenges confidently while keeping their moral value intact. So as the result, we get a generation that competent, hardworking, and ready to contribute to nation's growth. And finally, the sixth advantage, the NEP ensure personal and society well-being. So when a person develops holistically, intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally, they live a more meaningful and balanced life. So this doesn't just benefit the individuals, but also the communities and the world's countries. So because when people are well educated and ethical, the society becomes more peaceful and harmonious. So wrap up, these six advantages show how powerful the national education philosophy really is. So it's not just about educations in the classroom, but about shaping the world persons, the mind, the heart, and the soul. So with this philosophy, Malaysia aims to create citizens who are not only knowledgeable but also good, balanced, and united. So thank you for listening, and I hope because we all can carry this philosophy in every time we do as students, teachers, and future leaders of our nation. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Iman Sofia binti Khairus, and I will continue the presentation based advantages of philosophy of Islamic education. Now we will look at the first advantages, which is integration of river knowledge akli and rational knowledge akli. Islamic education combines divine knowledge from the Quran and Sunnah with human reasoning and modern sciences because human reasoning or rational knowledge can help students to understand better what they have learned from divine knowledge or any other knowledge, and it will lead them towards the truth. And this balance helps students develop intellectually and spiritually, ensuring the education that benefits both in this world and hereafter. The second advantages is moral and ethical development, which is development in terms of akhlaq, because Islamic education focus on producing individuals with strong moral values, honesty, and integrity. This is because Islamic teaching guides students to act ethically in personal, social, and professional life. It means that to act ethically when you are by your own self and also with others. And this will help to reduce social problem by emphasizing ethical behavior. Next, the third point is Tawheed as the core principle. As we all know, Tawheed means the oneness of Allah. It's used as the foundation of Islamic education because this will shapes the worldview of students, helping them to see that knowledge, life, and action is interconnected under Allah's sovereignty. And this is to ensure that education is rooted in the belief in Allah and guiding individual towards a meaningful life. For example, as IIM student, we always have to relate what we have learned in the class with Islamic perspective, and as the result, it will help students or learners to strengthen faith and devotion towards Islam. Fourth point, strengthen family and social value. Islamic education promotes respect for parents, compassion, cooperation, and justice within society. This is because it is related to the aim of Islamic education, which is to nurture responsible citizens who contribute positively towards the Ummah. Islamic education will help students or learners to understand their role as an individual, their role as a son or a daughter, their role within the society. So once they enter the society as a working adult or any role, they will know how to contribute towards the Ummah. And the fifth advantage is education as worship or education as ibadah. Learning is viewed as an act of ibadah worship when done with sincere intention to seek Allah's pleasure. Because learning is considered as an act of devotion towards Allah, and students will be motivated to pursue knowledge with clear purposes, because Islamic education encourages lifelong learning mindset with a purpose beyond just career success, which is the purpose to achieve goodness in this world and the hereafter, not only worldly matters, or not only for wages or for position and any other worldly matters, but also towards the akhirah. Lastly, character building and spiritual growth. Islamic education aims to develop insan kamil, a complete and balanced person, someone with strong faith, self-discipline, good conduct that guided by both intellect and spirituality. It means that Islam encourages someone who are not only good in academic matters or in their career, but also have a good personality, have a good self-conduct, which means someone that have discipline, humility, and gratitude, and any other human values that are important as an individuals and people.
Okay, hi, my name is Nurul Aminti Amran, metric number 2117656. Okay, for my part, I will be presenting about the shortcomings of the National Education Philosophy (NEP) and the philosophy of Islamic Education (PIE) in Malaysia. Okay, as we all know, both philosophies actually have a very good aims, which is they want to produce students who are balanced in all aspects, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, also intellectually. But when we look at the real situation in schools, there are still a few weaknesses or gaps between what is written in the philosophy and what actually happens in the classroom. So I will explain the shortcomings based on four main aspects, and we will see it on the next slide. These are the four main aspects of shortcomings. First is the secular versus religious divide. Second, implementation issues. Third, moral and character aspect. And lastly is adaptability. Okay, let's go to the first shortcoming, which is the secular versus religious divide. In Malaysia, we can still see a kind of separation between secular and religious education. For example, the national education philosophy focuses a lot on academic success, like examination, grades, and career achievement, which is all of that is more towards worldly goals. But it doesn't put enough emphasis on spiritual or moral development. While the philosophy of Islamic education is the opposite, which is it focuses deeply on religious knowledge and spirituality, but sometimes it doesn't blend well with modern subjects like science, innovation, and technology. So, students may become strong in religion but not ready for modern work environments or vice versa. And recently, our Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim actually mentioned that the National Education Council needs to focus more on STEM, AI, and language learning while still keeping the role of religious and traditional schools. And that shows this issue is real, which is Malaysia is still trying to find the balance between modern education and spiritual education. So, this divide or separation shows that both NEP and PIE are still not fully integrated, which is one focus too much on the worldly life and the other is not connected enough to the modern world. Okay, the next shortcoming is the implementation issue, and this is a very common problem. Okay, even though both NEP and PIE have strong foundations, the problem is how they are applied in schools. Okay, for the national education philosophy, schools still focus mainly on examinations and grades, where teachers are pressured to complete syllabus and students are pressured to score well in examinations. So, the real aim of holistic education is kind of forgotten. And we can see that many students nowadays study just to pass examinations, not because they really want to understand and apply what they learn. And for the philosophy of Islamic education, there is a lack of uniformity in curriculum implementation, where not all teachers apply the same approach, like some emphasize memorization and others focus on moral application. And this inconsistency happens because of differences in teacher training and interpretation of now the let's look at the moral and character aspect. For the NEP, moral education in schools today has become quite theoretical, where students often just memorize values like empathy, respect, and responsibility, but they don't really get the chance to practice or apply them in their daily life. And at the same time, modern social influence like social media, peer culture, and online entertainment often overpower the moral lessons that students learn in school. So, even though moral values are taught, they sometimes don't have a strong effect on students' actual behavior. And as for the philosophy of Islamic education, the issue is a bit different. Although it strongly focuses on nurturing good character and spirituality, it often gives insufficient attention to modern ethical issues like online manners, gender respect, or dealing with social media challenges. And many teachers still depend heavily on lecture-based instruction rather than facilitating students' moral reasoning or applying concepts to real-life situations. And students only listen to lessons about morality instead of being encouraged to think and discuss about ethical situations. And because of this, students may know Islamic values in theory, but they struggle to apply them in real life context. And with the recent cases involving school students in Malaysia, we can clearly see how important it is to strengthen moral and character education. And these incidents remind us that education should not just produce academically excellent students, but also individuals who have empathy, emotional control, and respect for others. So overall, both NEP and PIE aim for good moral development, but the methods used are still passive. We need more interactive learning like moral discussions, role plays, or community activities. So it will help students not just know what is right, but also choose and practice what is right. And lastly, the fourth aspect is adaptability. Okay, education should always move forward with time, but both national education philosophy and philosophy of Islamic education are struggling to keep up with today's challenges. Okay, for the national education philosophy, the system still emphasizes standardization and conformity, where everyone must follow the same syllabus, the same exam format, and this limits creativity, critical thinking, and innovation, where students are trained to follow, not to explore. Meanwhile, the philosophy of Islamic education, although based on strong Islamic values, it sometimes finds difficult to adapt to modern teaching methods like using digital tools, addressing global issues, or integrating Islamic perspective into modern subjects. And we can see this through Malaysia's recent education rights ranking, where we were placed among the lowest in Asian, according to the Human Rights Measurement Initiative. And the government even announced a new education blueprint 2026 to 2035 because our current system is no longer suitable for today's needs. So, this shows that both national education philosophy and philosophy of Islamic education need to evolve, where we must preserve our spiritual values but at the same time be open to modern advancement. And education should prepare students not just for exams but for real life in a fast changing world.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, Sister Ain. Next, we will continue with the solutions for national education philosophy and also philosophy of Islamic education in Malaysia. Let's check it out. So the first one, we will have the solutions for national education philosophy or NEP. So we cover and pertaining four aspects, which are the first one, secular versus religious divide. Second, implementation issues. Third, moral and character aspect. And lastly, adaptability. Secular versus religious divide. So what's the solution? The first solution is integrate shared ethical values such as respect, justice, and integrity across all subjects, reflecting unity in diversity and avoiding polarization between secular and religious domains. So, this is important because we live in multicultural and multi-ethnicity, when every single race has their own belief and faiths. So, as example, when teachers are teaching a certain subject in the classroom, maybe they can instill the values of respect, justice, love and compassion between all races in order to prevent any racial issues. Next, second, promote inclusive religious literacy within civic and moral education to enhance interfaith understanding among students. And lastly, the third solution for secular versus religious divide is encourage collaboration between national and faith-based schools, such as shared service projects or academic competitions to build mutual understanding and national identity. Second, implementation issues. So the first solution for implementation issues is translating NPE goals into measurable outcomes, ensuring every learning standard explicitly reflects holistic development, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical, or we know it as Jerisa in Malay. Jasmani, emosi, rohani, intellectual, sasyah, and is Khalifah. So second, enhance teacher training in integrating moral and value education into subject teaching to reduce fragmentation. I think most of us here already learned this in our first semester here in Coed. When Dr. Jody told us in the philosophy of education subject, he told us that we need to become a murabbi. We need to nurture our students with the good values and good deeds, and also we need to become muaddib. Muaddib is a role model according to him when we lead by example and not just teaching. So lastly, the third solution regarding implementation issues is strengthen curriculum monitoring systems, ensuring alignment between the philosophy, lesson plans, and assessment frameworks. So moving on, the third one, moral and character aspects. And the solution is the first one, reinforce moral education through experiential learning such as service learning projects and student leadership activities. So sooner or later, when every single one of us become a teacher, you guys should develop this kind of service learning project and student leadership activities. Next, adopt reflective pedagogies, journaling, ethical debates, classroom discussions. So these are the examples of reflective pedagogies that help students internalize values rather than memorize them. So nowadays, as we all know, the reality of students in Malaysia, they tend to love only to memorize, not to understand. So this is critical and detrimental because the action of memorizing will impact the long-term consequences of these learning activities. So we don't want our students only memorize, but we want them to grasp every single thing that they learn and also understand them. So lastly, foster school community partnerships to create consistent moral messaging between home, school and society. So lastly, regarding the aspect of adaptability when it comes to the solution for National Philosophy Education of Malaysia, the first one is review NPE periodically to ensure relevance to digitalization, sustainability and global citizenship education. Second, encourage innovative pedagogies such as blended learning and inquiry-based approaches. This is important in order to nurture critical and adaptive thinking. And last one, the third one is build teacher capacity for lifelong learning, promoting continuous professional growth in pedagogy, digital tools, and value-based education. Right, next, we're moving on to the solutions for philosophy of Islamic education, or PI. Same, it covers four aspects, which are secular versus religious divide, implementation issues as well, moral and character aspect, and last but not least, adaptability. So when it comes to secular versus religious divide, the first solution is promote integrative education combining ilmu nakli, relate knowledge, and ilmu akli, rational knowledge, in order to prevent dichotomy between religious and secular subjects. I think most of us know about René Descartes. René Descartes is a renowned philosopher with his famous quote, "I think, therefore I am." So he is the one who promotes the dichotomy between religious and secular subjects. He wants to separate religious from every single knowledge. Why? Because he didn't believe in God in the first place. And then he also promoting that with religion, it's kind of hard for us to attain success and happiness in this world. So this is a wrong argument. And then many philosophers from Islam they counter this argument, such as the famous Syed Muhammad Naqi Al-Atas with the book Islam and Secularism, with the idea of Islamization of knowledge. Okay, next, contextualize Islamic education within the Malaysian plural society, emphasizing universal Islamic values such as tolerance, tasamuh, and justice, al-adl, in order to prevent any bad disasters in our country. Okay, next, the third one, facilitate collaboration between Islamic and national educators to co-develop shared curricular teams such as environmental, ethics, civics. Moreover, we have implementation issues regarding 5 philosophies of Islamic education in Malaysia. So the first solution is provide specialized professional development for Islamic education teachers on pedagogy, assessment and integration with modern disciplines. Second, develop a structured implementation framework translating PI concepts such as faith, knowledge, adab into observable learning outcomes. Lastly, the third solution is improve supervision and evaluation through dedicated monitoring teams to ensure quality delivery in Islamic education programs. We have moral and character aspects. So the first solution is adopt hikmah or wisdom pedagogy to promote moral reasoning and spiritual reflections, going beyond rote memorization of religious texts. So what exactly is hikmah? As we all know from the Ahlul Ma'arifah, they say hikmah is ilmun nafi' wa amala bihi, the beneficial knowledge that we apply. So we want to instill this hikmah pedagogy when we teach our student in order for them to become the ahlul hikmah as well. So next, the second solution is introduce contextual moral modules addressing modern challenges such as digital ethics, integrity, environmental care, and within the Islamic ethical frameworks. So last one, the last solution for moral and character aspect is involve parents and community religious leaders in co-curricular and moral development initiatives. So for fun facts, in British, most of the country, they applied this system. The involvement of the parents and the community religious leaders is actually happen in British. Because why? Because they want to prevent the bully case. Because in Malaysia, as we all know, the bullying case is arising, so it's very concerned. So lastly, for the solution regarding aspect of adaptability. So the first one is align PIE curriculum with 21st century learning skills, integrating entrepreneurship, science and technology from an Islamic worldview. So this is according to Hassan Langgulong. Professor Hassan Langgulong is a famous lecturer in Kuliah of Education, for you guys' information. So the second one is promote lifelong tarbiyah by fostering continuous learning and self-improvement grounded in Islamic ethics. And lastly, encourage international benchmarking with global Islamic education institutions in order to maintain relevance and quality. So as for the conclusion, both the National Philosophy of Education (NPE) and the Philosophy of Islamic Education (PIE) aim to develop students who are balanced, wasatan, knowledgeable, and moral. However, issues such as the divide between secular and religious education, weak implementations, moral decline, and poor adaptability have limited their impact. So, to overcome these problems, Malaysia's education system must unite both philosophies through shared values, strong teacher training, and continuous curriculum improvement. So, the NPE should focus on creating harmony among Malaysians' diverse society, while the PIE should remain rooted in Islamic principles but open to modern teaching methods. When both philosophies work together hand in hand, they can produce students who are not only intelligent and skilled, but also ethical and responsible citizens who contribute to the nation's progress for a better Malaysia.